So now we're going to look at the C profile, which is the conscientious style and the final letter in the DISC model. So once again, page 5 will talk about this as well, but on a scale from 0 through to 100, the C scale is the degree to which you will or will not follow rules, systems, processes and procedures and structure. Someone who is a high C is going to follow rules, they're going to stick to the systems, they're going to stick to the structures. Now in the context of sport, you can think about rules, systems, structures, procedures as being game plans, tactics, strategies, technique. Team rules as well, codes of conduct. Okay, now someone who is a high C is usually very structured. So a coach that's a high C usually spends a lot of time detailing the intricacies of the session, what drills are going to be done, why those drills are going to be done, and organising the environment so it can happen as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Now, if you're lower in the level of C, this is one of the areas where most people make an adaptation. As a coach, as an athlete, as someone who goes to work in any corporate environment, most people adapt their level of C up because most environments demand that we're organised, we're well structured, and we of course follow certain rules. Now, someone who's a low C is less rule governed. That basically means, it doesn't mean they won't follow the rules, but they tend to see rules as being more of a guideline. Perhaps rules are meant to be broken. That's what they'll actually suggest as an extreme version of that. But here's where DISC is really useful. Just because someone is a low C does not mean they won't follow the rules, but it will mean that their motive for doing so is entirely different from someone who's actually a high C. Someone who's a high C, they see a rule and they follow it because it's a rule. Someone who's a low C, they can still follow the rules, but we refer to another aspect of their profile to find out why they're following the rules. So if you just say to them, look, you have to do this because it's a rule, to them that's not really going to make sense. It's not a compelling enough reason to do so. But what if they're a high D? So before we talked about the high Ds as being results focused and really primarily interested in creating winning outcomes. So to get a high D to follow the rules, especially if they're a low C, we need to pitch it to them in such a way that these strategies, this tactic or this technique is going to help you go faster, it's going to help you produce better outcomes, it's going to help you win. Now if we pitch it to them in that way, it becomes more compelling. But that's tapping into their unique level of motivation, their reason for wanting to do it. Now if they're a high I, like this profile here is, one of the qualities of a high I, because they're extroverted, they like people to like them. And so a high I will follow the rule because they don't want to stand out from the group and not be liked by others. They don't want to have people say bad things about them. And so I's will follow the rules because they want others to appreciate them and they like the status that goes with that. And that's fine. And S is different again. Before we talked about the S as being team-oriented, selfless. And S will follow the rules because it's the right thing to do for the team. And so you can think about that in the context of the same way that we talk about the Ds being the profile that may naturally gravitate towards a leadership position, for example, always wants authority, wants to win. It doesn't mean that the other profiles don't want to do those things as well, but their motive for doing so is very different. And so that's a little bit of an insight into what the scales of D, I, S and C mean. And as we discuss this further, especially in our one-on-ones, we'll be looking at the adaptations that you make and discussing that in more detail.